Welcome, chamber music fans. This is Michelle Schumann. I'm here with the Austin Chamber Music Festival, and I'm so happy to be here with members of Mother Falcon. I have Nick Gregg here and Matt Puckett, and they are here to chat with us about their concert coming up during the festival. And I kind of love presenting Mother Falcon because, Nick, you were a student with ACMC before you guys kind of hit it big. And I remember 2 years ago when you guys won all those awards at the South by Southwest Chronicle Music Awards, and you guys played at the music hall, and like people went nuts.
It was really great.
Yeah, it was. I think it was a really cool time. How has were you sort of expecting an explosion like that, or was it totally unexpected? And how did it kind of inform how you guys have moved forward?
I mean, if you're talking at ACMC, it's informed a lot. Just the idea of how we run the band is much more like a quartet or ensemble than, like, say, a band. We do sectionals, we do certain things, and so we've always just wanted to do this. We want to do this professionally, but at the same time, there's this element of just fun and being able to, on the off days from, like, say, orchestra rehearsal at UT, to be able to then create your own music and hang out. And so we never, like, the success wasn't geared, or we weren't geared towards the success. But it does show that, like, people are really out there and ready to hear this kind of music, especially with these classical instrumentations that maybe, adaptations haven't been done yet, but it shows that there's a huge audience out there and they're hungry for it.
Yeah, and I kind of remember a transformation with you because I think I was just coming into leading ACMC, and you were pretty close to graduating, and I totally remember, and you can tell me if I'm totally wrong about this, but I kind of remember you having this transformation from playing the cello because my parents are making me, and why do I have to do classical music, and this kind of sucks, into this realization that music is really cool, and it's not just in this box, but there are so many possibilities. Yeah. And I think that probably for you came out of this creative process and some of the things that you're doing.
Take a 2-year break from lessons. I did Region, but that was like, I just tried it on my own. Not like the greatest results, but I took a 2-year break from actual classical training because sometimes that does discourage the person when you're constantly thinking, Sunday I have to get this piece ready by this time. Sometimes it makes it much more about, like, the readiness as opposed to love for it. And so
you have to be very critical with yourself, and that comes.
That's very hard. And like that's part of maturation
right?
is actually accepting that criticalness and being like, that's going to make you better.
Yeah.
And so during that time, I spent a lot of time with bands, and like this idea that like really music's universal. You look at Shostakovich and you hear like metal music from it, and that was really eye opening to me. And then going back and then playing like Beethoven and stuff like that, and like wow, like in their time that was like rock music, or that was like hanging out and playing with your friends, like that sort of came full circle, and by that point I realized like this is really like something very beautiful and inspiring, regardless of what time it's from. Right.
Well, and that's the thing, realizing that that music, great music, can be composed at any time, and that sort of transfers from kind of era to era. How did the band actually come about? And I don't know if you want to talk a bit about that.
Yeah, it's a huge factor in how the band runs now.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of Mother Falcon before me. Was it a year and a half, 2 years before I got involved? Yeah, and I was out of town. And when I came in, my younger sister plays guitar and sings in the group, and I got involved just sort of to help out, and because it obviously is a huge project, and you can't just stroll into the studio or stroll into a gig and just say, okay, the sound guy's going to figure it out, it's going to be fine.
Not with 17 players.
Well, exactly. Right? I mean, even if you get over the fact that there are so many people to wrangle and to get in a spot, there are all these technical, specific challenges that come to the group because, I mean, you're miking up violins instead of guitar amps and accordions instead of basses and all that kind of stuff. And I just got really interested in sort of making this, or helping this group that had these very classical roots and kept adding all these people and getting bigger and bigger, and there's a very specific kind of band, trying to help that transfer into kind of the rock club setting. Not exclusively, but that is a big part of what we do.
Yeah, sure.
And I would say, I mean, up until that point, I mean, it started as a trio.
Yeah.
Quartet.
Early on,
Quintet. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then that summer that I got involved, we were at about 18, and it's hovered around there. Yeah, there have been some switches, but it's about there.
And what's cool about what you guys do, since you use kind of pop instruments and also classical instruments, it kind of opens up venues too, right? Because you can play clubs, you can play concert halls, you're comfortable in all, right?
Yeah.
And it's fun. Sometimes it feels like you're driving against traffic, in the sense that, maybe it's just for size, but the idea is that a lot of venues aren't catered either towards classical instruments or catered towards 17 members ensembles. But that, you know, with those limitations, it provides a lot of inspiration to be like, wow, this is something that's like, you know, maybe not on the forefront musically, but at least like physically it is, and that is very fun because it's constantly having to force us into new avenues of how to like approach shows, like you'll see at Antone's.
Exactly. Well, and because you haven't played at Antone's before, right?
No,
They're super excited to have you.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty big stage.
Yeah.
And as audiences may know, we're also, you guys will be collaborating with ACMC workshop students and some of our advanced students, and they're really excited to be a part of this. And again, that sort of comes full circle because a lot of the seeds for Mother Falcon, I think, came from some of the work that you guys did with Grant Reynolds and Peter Stopczynski, and they'll be kind of helping to lead that too. So I think it'll be.
And Maurice, who did the main orchestrations for what you guys will hear, you know, studies very closely under Grant Reynolds. So.
Yeah.
I feel like a gig like this is very particularly exciting because throughout most of the year we focus on this kind of college crowd and people that are about our age. But a gig like this is very exciting because one of the points of pride that I think a lot of us have about the band is that it's not just 20-somethings. You know, there are high school kids and junior high kids that come out to the shows, and like their parents and grandparents, and a really good gig for us. One of the best feeling gigs is when everyone's in the same room. This show seems very exciting because it's going to be not just parents of the kids there, but also like adult role models like Graham and Peter that different members of the band have worked with for all this time, but they're also going to be the young kids, and we're actually going to be on stage with them.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but because it's part of a classical festival, there's also just like kind of regular festival goers who will go who may not know about.
My boss actually.
Yeah.
Him and his wife are going.
No pressure.
They went last year to the what was the band that you guys had? It was a free jazz.
The Knee Body.
Yeah, and they loved that.
Yeah, so that's really cool, and I love that too. I love bringing diverse crowds together because it sort of shatters their expectations, and it allows them to see that like great music is being made.
That's beautiful
through
about modern
all.
classical, is that because it's classical, you have a huge older audience, and then modern it brings in things, so you're actually getting a very big scope, as opposed to like say pop music, which might be still limited to the teen boppers,
or straight up classical. But oftentimes we see a lot of gray-haired audience members. So this is, and I actually feel that about a lot of the festival, that it's got a pretty diverse crowd, which is a lot of fun. Talk a little bit about the songwriting process and how that works for you guys. Because with 17 people, I imagine some people are writing more, but how does everyone kind of interact to make that happen?
So we've recently we started to like actually sort of make it concrete. We figured out how to do it.
Yeah.
Or I think we did. But yeah, I would come in with like a basic structure and work with a group of like 4 to 5. For us, being a very small group. And then we would just sort of run through ideas. And basically, our goal is to try to come up with a workable structure, like just some kind of skeleton. And then as that skeleton grows, you add on the different legs and different parts, and that's when we reach a certain point where we have a full band rehearsal. And at that point, sort of the section heads take it off and they workshop the parts, and then those parts come back and inform actually how the song will flow, because you'll have a great violin part that actually contradict the vocal part, and we're like, well, which one do we want more? But so there's a lot of discussion the whole way. It's very democratic, but you'll need, like, I'll have to come and be like, okay, let's play this kind of song, but it's very much informed by just like quartet rehearsals. You have the violins go off and they rehearse constantly, and a lot of them are classically trained, so they're always talking about how like this voice then talks to like the cellos, so it's still very classical minded.
That's really awesome, and so many people I think have a little bit at least of that classical background in the group, because I've heard of I've had classical musician friends who have joined bands, and then it makes them nuts because they don't know how to rehearse at all. They'll just sort of run through a song and be like, hey, that's great, let's move on, or whatever. So it's kind of cool that you guys can add that sort of level of sophistication, because it probably makes the songwriting have that added element of sophistication.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we've talked a lot about how, like, there's a general understanding in the group that, as compared to a lot of other pop and rock bands, the balance between lyrics and melody and then arrangement is all, like, in terms of who considers himself a songwriter in the group, like, everyone is, because everyone's having this hand in the arrangement. And what I always like to say is you probably couldn't just pick up a guitar, learn the chords to a Mother Falcon song, and have it sound right.
Though our great friends Speak have done.
That's
and
true.
blown us away.
That's super impressive because Joey is an
classical
amazing
training.
classical
Yeah.
guitarist.
Yeah.
But you know, like you can't just sit down and check. Wait,
Yeah.
does it sound right?
Yeah.
I've done it before and been very disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it might also come back to like how like we all grew up musically. Like I listened exclusively to classical music up to a certain point. And the great thing about like Beethoven and all that stuff is it's melodies carrying the whole structure. There's no vocals, and they call it they call it like instrumental rock,
Right.
which means something's lacking, but that's not
Right.
the fact.
Right.
Yeah.
But you hear Beethoven and stuff like carry it, and it's so beautiful. And so like I don't know, that's like how I view good music. Is not necessarily like the lyrics and vocals, which they make a better song.
Yeah.
But we treat it much more as part of the textures.
I wanted to ask you about that because I always find that when I'm listening to any kind of music, even if it's classical vocal music or pop music, like I am just, to me a good song is kind of the harmonic structure and like and definitely texture and like how rhythm works into that and the flow of that. Like to me that's what kind of grabs me. And honestly, I'm just not a lyric person.
Yeah.
I don't know why that,
I didn't grow up like I still haven't really listened
Yeah.
to Bob Dylan. No haters out there, but I haven't, and it just shows a lot in terms of like how we've grown up seeing music.
Yeah.
But what's also funny about that as well is that there are people in the group
Yeah.
for whom lyrics are a much bigger deal. It's
It's
almost like we
great,
even
yeah.
have lyric sectionals.
Yeah.
Like sort
We
of
started
the
it,
last
yeah.
step of the songwriting.
Yeah.
The people that really care about lyrics get together and
Yeah.
sit through and mark things out and rewrite and even like
So
write in the studio.
both sides really
Yeah.
coming in.
Right, the best of both worlds. That's awesome. Well, I think it has a lot to do with your success and why your band has a real voice. And it's really exciting to kind of see what you guys have done and what you guys will do. So it's awesome. So I think we'll wrap this up. It's really great to chat with you. I can't wait till your show. I just think it's going to be awesome. I think it's July 13th, Friday the 13th. It won't be scary at all. It'll be fantastic. Thanks a lot. And thanks for agreeing to chat with our audience. They love to hear you.
Sure
So,
thing. Thank you.
all right. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, you do.
Bye.
Good.